Hi Platypuses, and you know what? I am kind of tired of revivals. Like sure, there are some shows I'd give my life to get back on the air, but the things they tend to bring back are already established hits with already established endings. Sure, I'll likely check out a few of these when they come out, but it's hard to get too excited for any of these when I know they're coming instead of original ideas from these creative— Oh my god, Phineas and Ferb? Never mind, screw new shows, reheated leftovers for life. I love Phineas and Ferb. And so does 90% of the world. But no, seriously, it's one of those shows that just gets better and better with age. Everyone knows it's formulaic, but the way the episodes tend to play with that formula and write creative ideas around it is what makes it work so well. But for being such a big hit for Disney, they've had a hard time recreating that success with any future cartoons they've made. Hell, even the creators themselves had a hard time recreating it. Milo was good, but never found his audience, and his second season was pretty rough. And I only watched 4 episodes of Hamster and Gretel before I gave up, so you know what? I don't blame Disney for bringing back Phineas. It's one of those shows that never really ended, considering its constant reruns, shorts, and of course the Milo crossover and Candace against the Universe. It clearly still has appeal to all audiences, judging by the amount of times I've seen it referenced on TikTok and Dan Pavemeyer's follower count. But I was still a bit worried, especially considering my thoughts on Dan's previous non-Phineas work, and the fact Phineas is one of those shows that pretty much has a perfect ending. Not to get on a tangent, but doing a whole special focused on the two characters who never got a win trying to hold on to Summer as long as possible is really clever, and this ending with Candace growing closer to Phineas and Ferb and Doofenshmirtz becoming a good guy always hit me in the feels. They made it very apparent from the start though that this would be undoing all that development to get back to that classic formula, which is a little disappointing because I feel like there are ways they could have incorporated these developments into the plot without changing the formula too much. But hey, I'm at least interested in seeing how they explain the continuity They don't, do they? Yeah, not gonna lie, I was a little worried about this. It didn't help that for reasons I can't explain, the trailer just looked off. Like it was the Phineas and Ferb alt style, sure, but just not right. I couldn't explain it. So for me, it was really up to the premiere to sell me on this. Is there a good reason to bring back Phineas and Ferb?
Candace, it's okay.
You know, I didn't expect Mortal to be the reason, but it's working for me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What is the plot of this new It's Phineas and Ferb. The boys build something crazy! Candace tries to bust them, Doof and Perry fight, and the destruction of Doof's device inevitably removes the kid's creation before their mom can see it. You've seen it, and you love it. However, just like previous seasons, the formula here isn't an issue because the show knows how to play around it. The first episode is obviously a highlight. It's such a simple concept to have Linda disappear instead of the inventions for once, so simple I'm surprised they haven't done it before, but doing it at the end of a segment that is pretty much just saying, it's Phineas and Ferb again, and is also the first new episode in 10 years makes it actually surprising. It helps that the second half is really dramatic. They go all in on the movie feel here, some of the alt feels really intense, and the focus on Candace is a nice touch. Obviously their dynamic can be messy at points, but Candace does truly care for her mom and is putting in the most work here to save the day. It's honestly kind of sweet to see. The rest of the episodes available to watch so far are mostly what you expect, sticking to the formula, but there's a few of these I do really love. The Roar Perry Alice, No Slumber Party, and a trip to the vet outside of that stupid goat joke again, to name a few. But like most of the original show, the best stuff comes from the really goofy stuff. Deconstructing Doof might be my favorite of the season so far. I think the idea of an outsider character unintentionally discovering the formula and basically going insane is hilarious, and is sold by its great song and almost being framed like a documentary. The other highlights are definitely the insane stuff. Tropey McTropeface is so stupid, it turns back around to being brilliant. Lord of the Firesides is just 11 minutes of pure chaos, and the Candace suit is just the right amount of creepiness to make itself hilarious. And hey, we even get follow-ups to loose ends from the original, such as Vanessa and Monty's relationship, Stacy's knowledge of Perry's identity, and even the Candace suits technically follow up an episode from season 3. Technically. I think the main thing that bugs me about that though is if we got continuity and we can follow up plot points from a decade ago, we couldn't slide in a single line about why Doof is bad again. Not a single sentence explaining it besides, he is now, and I don't think it would bug me so bad if it wasn't for the fact that he did it for Vanessa in the original finale, and she acknowledges it happens in the premiere, but doesn't seem to be fazed. Doof is a good father, he would never go back on a promise to her, this is character assassination I won't stand for. But it's not that big of a deal. His antics are still a big highlight of every episode, so it's hard for me to care too much about this change. On the contrary, the kid's big idea has become the most forgettable part of the show. I'm struggling to remember what they created in most of these episodes, and I only watched all of them a few days ago. But thankfully, outside of those few nitpicks, the writing here is great and continues to help sell the series. And it doesn't have too much of the hamster and griddle stink to bother me. Okay, there is one episode that kinda has to stink, and unfortunately, it had to be the one I was looking forward to most. The Chronicles of Meep, episode 42, Meet Me in St. Louis. First off, why is that the full title? Just call it Meet Me in St. Louis. Second off, there was 2 good songs in here, a fun Candace team up, and tons of clever gags, but the presentation of it all makes it so annoying. Meepless in Seattle works because it starts by showing the trailer and then just plays out like a regular special that somehow connects all these random scenes. Even if you remove the introduction or show it to someone who has never seen the trailer, it still works on its own and ties to the themes of the last special. I think the writers here thought the only joke should be the trailer. There's an overly long intro explaining the history of the joke, showing the trailer itself, but they still felt the need to have an obnoxious pop-up every time they do one of the scenes. Like, I'd maybe get this if there was no intro, heavy emphasis on the maybe, but doing both just makes it annoying and less funny. And on top of all that, we have multiple forced wall breaks mentioning the trailer, or teasing trailer events that they didn't bother doing, which could be funny on their own, but when this pop-up starts appearing every time, I just get frustrated! And on top of that, the plot barely has anything to do with the previous 2 entries, and they felt the constant need to remind us that John Stamos is Meep now, and the fact they didn't even bother to do a new trailer at the end, this was just frustrating to watch. Pretty much every issue I had with Milo and hamster style humor put into a pot of disappointment. But thankfully, this episode, the goat joke, and the Friends reference before they repeated it a million times and actually did become funny, are really the only parts of this that got on my nerves. Well, writing-wise at least. But we'll get to it. It's silly, I shouldn't mention it, but we'll get to it. As for the songs, they're about as great as they've always been. They hit a wide variety of genres, feature some great vocals, and to keep it accurate to the original, there's plenty that I find incredibly catchy that aren't on streaming, and it makes me sad. There's a few weird things that I noticed, like how the episode version of License to Bust has a weird echo effect that just sounds bad, and how no sleeping at a slumber party miraculously makes every character sound off, including a brief inclusion of American folk.
The popcorn is poppin'.
But even those are few and far between. The songs all bang, they slap, and they killed it. As for other things I find really cool, they got, almost, everyone back. I always find it really impressive when these actors who start roles as kids are never recast and just manage to do the same voices 20 years later. It's a skill that scares me, and it applies to most of the cast here, from Phineas himself to even most of the Fireside Girls, which means, oh damn, Diamond White is in this? No big deal, she just voices a character in another show I've talked about. Just a bit. Just a couple times, a few times, you know. And now that my quota is filled for the day, it's time to talk about the scariest recast of all. Ferb. Nah, David does fine. I know it's kinda hard to mess up a character who only has 1 line per episode. Also makes it funny that out of all characters, he got recast. Like, come on Thomas, you're not above this. But still, from everything he has said so far, he sounds like Ferb to me. Same goes for Jeremy, which makes a little more sense he got recast, even if Disney firing him from everything, but this was a funny fun fact for a while there. But his new voice, whoever it may be, we don't know, sounds just enough like Mitchell to me. Of course, it still has been years, so everyone does sound a little different. Ashley Tisdale's Candace was really off in the first episode, and sounds different throughout. But 1, she was both pregnant and repeatedly sick during recording, so I'd be a joke for complaining about it. And 2, it hits the voice you expect enough times to not bother me too much. Same goes for Allison Stoner as Isabella, who has a few moments that sound off, but I'm 90% sure they were pitch correcting them in season 4, so this is actually the better option, not gonna lie. And everyone else is too similar for me to even care. Okay, what else to mention? Intro's a bit off-putting at first. It was re-recorded for the first time in nearly 20 years, but I got used to it pretty quickly. A bit bothered by the Brandy Young producer credit appearing before the creators and being an entirely different font, and the fact the images in the back are from this season, not the previous, as tradition. But that's silly things to even notice, so why would I be bothered? I appreciated the fact every episode had a credit scene. These were a Disney Channel tradition, every show had them until around 2016, so I appreciate them bringing them back, even if most of them ended up being song reprises and not additional gags. Okay, am I allowed to be a little nitpicky about one thing? Okay, cool, let's make this quick. Why does it look like this? The animation here is Okay, I can't say bad, but definitely not great either. I don't know how else to describe how this looks 90% of the time other than 2000's Flash cartoon. It's weirdly bouncy and at points stiff, and don't even bother looking at the eyes because they aren't looking directly at anything. But then the animators decide to lock in. We get some crazy smooth movements, ambitious dance sequences, or stuff that just looks normal, and as much as I appreciate the effort, the inconsistencies between these two just look wrong. This isn't to say it's without any charms. The backgrounds look made for a 4K display now, the character designs, okay, are sometimes really off, but 90% of the time look fine, and I appreciate the consistent action and big set pieces they go for. But man, it's hard to get past how this moves. The animation here was handled by Snipple. They worked on Candace Against the Universe and reportedly were the studio whose work required the least amount of retakes. That film constantly changes studios every act, and I'm pretty sure they were who worked on the third act, which you know, if it was between them and whoever did the first third of that movie, thank God. I couldn't find any official source on how this was animated, but it sounds like it was likely handled in Toon Boom Harmony, which if you don't know, if you're a modern cartoon being accused of Flash animation, 9 times out of 10 is Toon Boom and a lot of tweening. I am by no means a Toon Boom hater. There were a lot of shows that I loved the animation of that were technically made in Toon Boom, but man, the way Phineas was handled just feels wrong. I kinda wonder if this was a resource thing. The original had multiple vendor studios doing the animation for different episodes, while Snipple had to handle a whole 40 episode pickup. It almost seems like a bad deal on Disney TVA's part, which, yeah, I am fully willing to blame them. They're basically my op at this point. Every news that comes from them just makes me mad, you know? The thing that sucks about this though is it gives the whole season a rough feel to it. Even when it's making me laugh or hits me in the feels like in the first episode, the way it looks just puts me off. But you know, as revivals go, this might be one of the best. I occasionally wish it respected the original ending more, and god does it look messy as hell, but 90% of the time, it feels just like Phineas and Ferb, and that's great. I'm very glad the crew here clearly loves the original and wanted to honor it and not just throw something together for a quick buck. It is just Phineas and Ferb, but you know what? I really appreciate that. It's awesome sauce. Oh, don't worry, I don't know what that means either. Revival's good. Yeah. Okay, is this thing gonna keep going, or am I gonna have to keep talking?